The book of Job is one of the most profound and challenging works in the Bible, tackling humanity's age-old question, why do the righteous suffer? Job's story redefines our understanding of faith, righteousness, and divine justice. By exploring his trials, losses, and ultimate restoration, we are invited to deepen our relationship with God, particularly in times of overwhelming hardship. As we journey through the incredible lessons within the book of Job, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel. Each subscription helps us continue sharing these insights and uplifting content to support you on your faith journey. Join us as we dive deeper, one chapter at a time, into the timeless wisdom of Job. Job's story begins with a description of a man unparalleled in his devotion, a man whose life reflects the essence of goodness and humility before God. Job is blameless and upright, words that don't merely describe his actions but capture the depth of his soul, a rare fusion of piety, integrity, and generosity. He is a man who holds his moral ground firmly, never wavering in his love and reverence for God. Job's wealth is abundant, not just in material possessions, but in relationships filled with harmony and joy. His large family is close-knit, thriving in a nurturing environment that Job has worked tirelessly to cultivate, showing both his love for them and his understanding of the blessings he enjoys. His children gather frequently, embodying a joyful unity that mirrors Job's deep-rooted family values. He is so attuned to the sanctity of their lives that he regularly performs sacrificial offerings on their behalf, fearing that even unintentional sins might have distanced them from God. His vigilance reflects a man who prioritizes not just his own righteousness, but the spiritual purity of those he loves. Job's standing, wealth, and family life form a harmonious picture, one where his goodness and fortune seem intertwined as rewards for his devotion. Yet, as we are introduced to the realms of heaven, a different scene unfolds. A divine council where the spiritual forces gather, including Satan, the adversary. Amidst these celestial beings, God praises Job's unwavering righteousness, drawing attention to his loyalty and faith. But Satan, ever the skeptic, suggests that Job's faithfulness is conditional, tied not to a profound love for God, but to the wealth and blessings he enjoys. He argues that Job's loyalty, though impressive, is shallow, rooted in the comforts of prosperity rather than any true allegiance. Without these rewards, Satan contends, Job would surely falter, his devotion crumbling as quickly as his material blessings could vanish. In this moment, a profound challenge arises, one that questions the very nature of faith. Can devotion be genuine if it thrives only in abundance? Is love for God unwavering when stripped of all comforts? To answer this, God allows Satan to test Job, a choice that sets into motion a series of unimaginable trials designed to reveal the core of Job's heart and spirit. God's permission isn't a condemnation, but a test of faith's resilience, a divine decision that hinges on the conviction that Job's love for him is rooted deeper than earthly rewards. The peace that once defined Job's life is suddenly torn away, beginning with the swift destruction of his material wealth. His livestock, fields, and servants all vanish in a series of tragic events, a cascade of loss that transforms his life of abundance into a scene of desolation. Job's home, once filled with joy and unity, is now silent as his beloved children are taken from him in an unthinkable tragedy. And as if the loss of his possessions and family weren't devastating enough, Job's own body is afflicted with painful sores, a physical reminder of his suffering that even disrupts his moments of rest. His entire being is tested, body and soul, pushed to the edge of human endurance. Amidst this ruin, Job's response is one of humility and surrender. His words, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord," echo through the silence, revealing a faith that holds firm even when all is lost. His willingness to accept these hardships without resentment toward God is a testament to the depth of his devotion. Job's response challenges the assumption that faith wavers when blessings are removed, setting an example of resilience and trust that defies the very premise of Satan's challenge. However, Job's resilience doesn't prevent him from feeling the weight of his suffering. In the quiet of his solitude, away from the comfort of his former life, Job's anguish begins to pour out. The once steady man who faced every loss with grace now confronts the darkest corners of his soul, questioning the purpose of his existence and cursing the day of his birth. His raw honesty doesn't signify a loss of faith, but a moment of profound human vulnerability. Job's lament is a voice that resonates across ages, a cry of despair that captures the essence of human suffering. He is not merely asking, "Why me?" but seeking to understand the reason behind life's inexplicable pain. Job's suffering touches on universal themes: the pain of loss, the agony of isolation, and the search for meaning amid despair. His lament is a mirror, reflecting the struggle that countless souls face when life's hardships seem unbearable. By expressing his pain openly, Job gives voice to the unspeakable, allowing his sorrow to serve as a reminder that faith doesn't preclude suffering, but endures within it. As Job sits in the ashes of his former life, 3 friends arrive, men who have come not just to offer comfort, but to seek answers. They are Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, each bringing with them a perspective that seeks to rationalize Job's suffering. But rather than compassion, they offer explanations steeped in a rigid view of divine justice, one that equates suffering with sin. Eliphaz suggests that God does not punish the innocent, hinting that Job's suffering must be a consequence of hidden sins. Bildad echoes this sentiment, urging Job to repent, while Zophar is even more blunt, insisting that Job's trials are a manifestation of divine justice. Their words, though spoken with conviction, reveal a limited understanding of God's ways, a view that fails to grasp the complexity of Job's situation. They see life as a simple equation. Righteousness leads to blessing, and sin brings suffering. This narrow interpretation leaves no room for the mysteries of divine will, overlooking the idea that suffering can also be a test or a means of spiritual growth. Their insistence on Job's guilt only deepens his anguish, as he is left to defend his innocence against those who should offer support. Faced with his friends' accusations, Job refuses to accept their explanations, holding firm in his conviction that he has done nothing to deserve such punishment. His responses are a mix of frustration, sorrow, and a profound longing for understanding. Job's heart yearns for answers, not just from his friends, but from God himself. His desire to communicate directly with the divine is a reflection of his deep-seated belief in a personal and just God, one who listens and cares. But as Job seeks a response, he is met with silence, a quiet that only intensifies his sense of isolation. His friends, unable to see beyond their limited views, continue to insist that he is at fault, their voices filling the void left by God's silence. Job's defense isn't merely a rebuttal, but an expression of his faith, a testament to his belief that his relationship with God transcends the simplistic view of divine justice his friends present. He isn't afraid to question, to express his frustration, and to seek a deeper understanding. Through his response, Job's journey becomes one not only of endurance, but of an earnest search for divine truth, a path that requires him to look beyond his suffering toward a more profound relationship with God. God's response to Job through the whirlwind illustrates a profound shift in the narrative, moving from Job's human suffering to a divine perspective that transcends human understanding. When God speaks to Job, he does so not with direct answers to Job's plight, but through a series of rhetorical questions about creation and the wonders of the natural world. In a mighty whirlwind, God's voice echoes with questions that reveal the mysteries and magnitude of the universe, a universe far beyond human grasp. Each question draws Job's attention away from his immediate suffering and toward the grandeur of creation itself, illustrating God's incomprehensible wisdom. The essence of God's response lies not in resolving Job's suffering, but in expanding Job's perspective. By asking Job about the foundations of the earth, the containment of the sea, and the guidance of stars, God emphasizes that there are realms of understanding inaccessible to human minds. His questions are humbling yet profound, prompting Job to see the limitations of his own comprehension. The mysteries of the universe of life, death, nature, and justice lie within God's domain alone, and Job is reminded that divine wisdom is immeasurably vast compared to human insight. Through this encounter, God challenges Job's need for explanations and reassures him, not through direct answers, but by asserting that his wisdom exceeds human understanding. Job, though still unaware of the reasons behind his suffering, is invited to trust in God's character and goodness, even when explanations are absent. This chapter unveils a timeless truth. Faith involves surrendering the need for explanations and instead embracing the mystery of God's infinite knowledge. God's response affirms that in his wisdom there exists a purpose beyond what we can perceive. By recognizing this, Job is encouraged to trust in God's character, secure in the knowledge that the divine plan is woven with a wisdom that is, by nature, incomprehensible to the human mind. As Job encounters God in his boundless wisdom, he experiences a transformation that goes beyond an intellectual understanding. Faced with the vastness of God's wisdom, Job's immediate response is one of humility and reverence. Humbled, Job confesses his limited understanding, acknowledging that his perception of justice and suffering is but a glimpse of the greater truth. In response to Job's humility, God reproves the counsel given by Job's friends, recognizing that Job, in his anguish and questioning, had still shown unwavering faith. Job's friends had been quick to judge, offering simplistic answers to complex questions about justice and suffering. But now, God affirms Job's journey of faith, elevating his trust over the misguided righteousness of his friends. Through this experience, Job undergoes both a spiritual and a material restoration. His health, wealth, and family are restored, symbolizing God's mercy and the reward for a faith that endured even in the face of inexplicable suffering. This restoration is more than just a return of his former blessings. It signifies the power of unwavering faith, a faith that acknowledges human limitations and embraces divine mystery. By choosing to trust God without the comfort of answers, Job finds a deeper peace, one rooted not in human understanding, but in a profound relationship with the divine. His journey from anguish to restoration demonstrates that, while suffering may test us, a humble heart, and a resilient faith are ultimately rewarded with spiritual richness. The story of Job offers several timeless lessons, each carrying profound implications about faith, suffering, and the nature of divine justice. Through Job's experience, we learn that suffering is not always a punishment or a reflection of one's character or actions. In Job's case, his suffering serves a higher purpose, one that tests and ultimately refines his faith. This perspective challenges the simplistic views of justice held by Job's friends, who assume that suffering is a direct consequence of sin. Instead, Job's story illustrates that faith transcends such simplistic notions. Faith involves trusting in God's wisdom and justice, even when our circumstances defy explanation. Another lesson from Job's story is that faith is a relationship of trust and resilience, not merely a transactional belief in rewards and punishments. Job's journey encourages us to seek a faith that is resilient, one that holds firm even when answers are elusive. Divine justice is portrayed not as a predictable system, but as a complex, purposeful force operating beyond human understanding. Job's faith, tested and strengthened through suffering, becomes an example of the trust we are called to cultivate, a trust that rests in God's wisdom, even when clarity is absent. Job's story also reminds us that suffering has the potential to deepen our connection with the divine. By journeying through pain, questions, and ultimately humility, Job's relationship with God reaches new depths. He is transformed, gaining a sense of peace and purpose that emerges only through his willingness to trust in something greater than himself. The narrative, therefore, teaches that faith requires a surrender to divine mystery, especially when human understanding falls short. In this surrender, we find a more profound connection with God, rooted not in what we know, but in whom we trust. Job's journey calls us to embrace a faith that is both resilient and trusting, especially when faced with life's inevitable challenges. Just as Job endured trials with a heart open to divine wisdom, we are invited to seek a faith that withstands suffering and chooses trust over doubt. Job's resilience serves as an example, inspiring us to approach our own struggles with a spirit of surrender. Faith in this light becomes a journey not defined by certainty, but by trust in the character of God. In moments of hardship, Job's story reminds us that we too can deepen our faith by focusing on God's wisdom rather than on our need for answers. By shifting our perspective from seeking explanations to seeking trust, we find a peace that surpasses understanding. Through resilience and an unwavering faith, we are encouraged to find purpose even in the face of suffering, knowing that our faith is not bound by our immediate understanding, but is anchored in the eternal wisdom of God. The book of Job ultimately calls us to reflect on the nature of faith, suffering, and divine justice, inviting us to see beyond our immediate circumstances. Job's journey shows that life's trials, while often beyond our comprehension, carry within them a purpose known only to God. His experience serves as a reminder that our faith is not a guarantee of a life without pain, but a testament to our trust in God's wisdom and love. As we conclude this exploration of Job's story, we are encouraged to pause and reflect on our own journey of faith. The book of Job asks us to embrace a deeper trust in God, one that does not waver even in times of doubt or hardship. Let us find ways to nurture our faith, especially when faced with challenges, and seek to strengthen our relationship with God through every season of life. By choosing to trust in God's character, we allow ourselves to experience a peace that goes beyond understanding, a peace rooted in the assurance that even in suffering, God's wisdom and love are ever present. If you found encouragement or insight in this journey through Job's story, consider subscribing to our channel. By doing so, you'll stay connected as we continue to explore timeless teachings that deepen our understanding of faith and the heart of God. Join our community today, and let's walk this path of discovery together.